It was a crisp Saturday afternoon in mid-March. I was training for provincials at U of T Gymnastics Club, my actual second home. And when I say second home, I really do mean it. I started toddlers recreational gymnastics at 3 and trained there competitively until I was 15. So during high school, I was there 38 hours a week. I have the fondest memories training at U of T. Memories of, where else do you cry, sweat, laugh, and acquire multiple broken bones? Gymnastics has taught me so much more than physical skills that I acquired over the years. But this Saturday in March was a memorable Saturday in grade 11, which really gave me a new perspective on my work ethic, my abilities, and most importantly, my expectations that I have for myself. March meant the bulk of the competition season was over, but for those who were competing at provincials, it was time to kick it into high gear. Preparing for provincials was exciting, intense, and stressful. We fine-tune our routines and correct any and all deductions we received during the regular season. Uneven bars was definitely my favorite event, but was also definitely my worst event. In order to execute the skills and the level I was competing at the time required a lot of strength. My routine consisted of a couple of skills that I had mastered over the years, but I struggled with one skill that I had to do on both the high bar and the low bar, on the uneven bars. The infamous free up to handstand. During my routine, I would cast to handstand and move my hips to the bar, keeping a straight body, and without actually touching the bar, rotate around the bar and shoot up into a handstand at the end of the skill. It took timing, strength, and the guts to fully commit to the skill all the way to the end and get the desired handstand position. This skill would ultimately make or break my provincial performance. If I were to nail the skill on both the high bar and the low bar, it would become apparent that I would for sure get gold at championships. But if I came early and worked with the positions, maybe this could happen. Both there was something about this Saturday. I was hitting the free hips most consistently as I had in a very long time on both low bar and high bar. My shoulders were sore, my hands were bleeding, but I was so excited that my hard work was paying off. I was getting it. I was on my 5th routine. The low bar sequence went well, and I attacked the high bar section with all that I had. For all I knew, the skill went well. I had the amplitude. I was sure I had the handstand on the high bar. But a second later, I was laying flat on my back, winded and kind of rattled. The whole gym shook as my body slapped the blue mat under the 8-foot-tall high bar. I took a second as the chalk settled, and I realized I had fallen. I got up. My coach Chris goes, "Are you good?" As the rest of my teammates just looked at me in awe, I looked back to Chris, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." A minute later, I was up, and I was doing another routine. It was competition season. Provincials were coming. I couldn't afford to pay attention to my pounding head or worry about replicating my fall when I was executing my skills next. 15 minutes later, we switched to beam, following the Olympic order as we always did during competition season. I was good, I was fine. I warmed up my skills, but then something hit me. I felt blurry, I felt dizzy, but I knew something was really wrong when my coach called me over. Chris said I looked pale and flushed. And I must have really looked like shit because Chris never told me to stop training, ever. Next thing I knew, I was icing my head. Then my coach was driving me home. And then I was sleeping in a dark room. But then I was diagnosed with a concussion. Up until this had happened, I'd always been on my game. I'd always been able to push 100% and go my hardest and do how I like. But this concussion made me tired. This concussion made me feel slow. This concussion made my head hurt. This concussion made me weak and so powerless. At a time I should be pushing my hardest, I was stagnant. As my teammates improved, I was laying in bed. The doctor said 2 weeks in bed, no lights, no screens. And during this time, where even listening to music gave me a headache, I had a lot of time to reflect. Ultimately, after the 2 weeks were up, I just went back and took it slow, and I eased back into my training. I competed well at provincials, although may have not been as well as I wanted or expected for myself. You might fall down, and in this case, I literally did. And in order to get back up, you have to give yourself some grace. As much as you think you're working hard enough, you are. And as much as you think you're not good enough, you are. I guess the moral which I took away from this, and I wish that others could take away from this, is that you don't always have to be the best, but you just have to try your best.